is sure enough dynamite. Dynamite, 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 dynamite.
So anyway, Gerald Ford's presidency must be asserted in the light of the both exceptional circumstances under which Ford assumed the office and then served the challenges he faced during the years up to 1976. Ford was actually not elected president or even vice president from the American public or even the people. He became president in 1974 only after Richard Nixon chose to resign rather than face removal by Congress and impeachment. You're damn right, hippies! So as President Ford confronted a failing economy, the likely collapse of South Vietnam, an American ally that 58,000 US soldiers had died to protect, and the public suspicion of its political and even their residential leaders in the midst of the Cold War. The Democratic control of the Congress, which actually argued ill for Ford's legislative program, would actually be there to stop him as well. So on equal importance, congressional Republicans and Democrats alike seem very intent on taking some of the powers they had ceded to the White House over the previous 40 years. Ford understood that his most pressing task was to help the country move beyond the despair, the disgust, and the distrust generated by the Watergate crisis. Ford's speech upon assuming the presidency, in which he declared that our long national nightmare is over. Our great republic is a government of law and out of men. Right, there we go, men. And this was actually met with almost universal applause and even some praise, going up by 2%, Mr. Ford. Well, yes, Jimmy. But the public's and even Congress' goodwill towards Ford quickly diminished when the new president pardoned Richard Nixon, a mere month into his tenure, not even like the last second at midnight. Ford certainly believed that the pardon would actually help the nation as well as his own presidency move forward. He also understood that most of the Americans wanted Nixon to be punished, and rightfully so as well. But Ford was using the wrong calculator. Instead of using a calculus, he was actually using an electronic calculator, which bugged out at the last minute and miscalculated a lot of stuff. So, yeah. So, Ford actually emerged from the maelstrom to actually achieve a mixed record on the country. So in domestic affairs, the Ford administration failed to actually redeem the nation's dire economic problems. Although by 1976, the economy had begun to recover somewhat, but was actually blamed on Jimmy Carter, congratulated by Jimmy Carter. So although by 1976, the economy had begun to recover from the previous years of recession, in Ford's defense, rising unemployment, soaring inflation, and stagflation, and the energy crisis of the 1970s that would plague America, in addition to the nation's longer-term economic decline, were really complex and even interrelated to some points that it would actually challenge and even confound and confuse the era's and even today's prestigious economists. So Ford's chief economic error, however, was actually political in nature. So he replaced his first economic program, which would actually raise taxes and cap the spending in an effort to combat the inflation of the time, with the plan to cut taxes and limit the government spending in the hopes to fight the unemployment as well. Democrats accused him of doing too little to help the Americans that were suffering from the unforgiving economy, and flip-flopping on the tax issue as well. Ford simply revised key parts of his energy program. Ford would similarly revise key parts of his energy program, which opened him to attacks from both the Democrats and the conservative Republicans alike. Ford's decision to change course on his two policy areas raised questions about his ability to address any of these difficult issues seriously. Yellow, Mr. Edward Sadhat. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna put you towards Henry Kissinger. Oh, you wanted to speak with me? Well, surely you can't be serious, and don't call me Shirley. So anyway, guys, let us talk about foreign policy now. So Ford assumed a solid, if not mostly unremarkable, record of foreign policy. So, firstly, he continued to pressure détente with the Soviet Union and to pursue détente with the Soviet Union, meeting to moderate success and meeting with moderate success. While the United States and the Soviet Union signed the Helsinki Accords in 1975, they failed to really agree on the Major Arms Control Agreement and Limitations Talks, or what would be called SALT 1 and 2. But, moreover, superpower tensions remain high in the United States and the Soviet Union as their proxies clash in Angola, though. So at the same time, while the Vietnam War was actually coming to an end on Ford's watch, with the memorable, if not sad, departure of the United States from Indochina, the communist victory actually put a tar and stain on the president's reputation. 1 month, one month after the fall of Saigon, Ford ordered a successful military operation to rescue the American ship, the Mayagos, captured by the Cambodian Khmer Rouge. The president's approval. Wait. Which? Vietnam, do you? Best communist state in the world, must say. So 1 month after the fall of Saigon, Ford ordered a successful military operation to rescue the crew and the cruise ship of the American ship of the Mayagusa, captured by the Cambodian Khmer Rouge. The president's approval rating obviously shot up accordingly after that day. But of course, with this height of an already unpopular president, of course the downs have to come back. And of course, his major fall was the economy. But as in the case with the economy, Ford's biggest problem in foreign affairs came from his political critics and political crises in the regions and stuff. Conservative Republicans and the Democrats complained that the administration's policy of détente acquiesced and actually gave the Soviets more power. While critics on the left, meanwhile, demanded that Ford rein the nation's intelligence agencies like the CIA, plotting everything in the Cold War, from the Hungarian Revolution to the collapse of communism. Everything is a CIA plot. And if you don't really try and stop and think about it for a minute, you are actually a CIA agent as well. When some in the Congress demand Ford's plans for a greater oversight in the CIA and more transparency was actually unsatisfactory, they responded with their own programs and their own agencies and proxies as well. When some of the Congress demand and deem Ford's plans for a greater oversight and greater transparency with the CIA as unsatisfactory, they responded with their own programs and their own stuff as well. Ford's presidency was then marked by three elements. First, Ford faced extraordinary challenges put on by Nixon and JFK and LBJ, especially involving the nation's economic woes, which he has struggled to solve even as of 1976 when it started to bounce back. Second, Ford had difficulty navigating the room of the White. Secondly, Ford had difficulty navigating a demanding political environment in which the Democrats from across the ideological spectrum and the conservative Republicans from right to left authoritarian found fault with his leadership and his foreign policy and his foreign and his domestic policies. The combination of the first and the second elements helped to bring Ford's defeat of the third one in 1976. Just as surely, though, the third dimension of the Ford presidency deserves some recognition. Americans by large believe that Gerald Ford was an innately decent and good man, and he did try his best as he was thrust into the White House, and he did bring some honor to the White House. Although his sentiments prove a little to bring fruit, Ford's victory. So although his sentiment proved to be a little to bring forward to victory of 1976, it is an assessment that many Americans and most Americans and even some scholars still find valid in the years after his presidency. And people even say that Mr. Trump is dumber than Ford. Well, I'll tell you what, I know that I might be dumb and I might have called Edward Sad Hat in the afternoon, but let me tell you this, folks, I'm not Donald Trump. Yellow. What? The economy? Well, just you could do stuff. Yeah, buy stuff. Yeah, sure. And anyway, guys, that is the legacy, the thing of General Ford. So, why was General Ford so hated? From research that I might have to cite later, it was the combination of the same Nixon, the hard and soft on communism from both the left and right wing, and ultimately the failure of Vietnam and the failures of the American foreign policy and the Cold War of the 1970s. From having to dig up their own oil to having the air sector be diminished because air just won't flow when Ford is around. So it really is actually a combination of stuff that I would love to go into. But the basic gist of it is he was thrust into president for 2 years. He tried his best. He did his tax homework. He got an B plus, and he was not just a jock from California or Idaho. You know what? I once met a guy, and I believe he was from Idaho, Kentucky. Yes, I met him in the Middle East. Now, what are you gonna say about yourself there, young man? Yes, I went to Yugoslavia. I went to Belgrade. I went to Belgrade, Greece. And you know what? Tito gave me a bit of Tito wine. Or that's what I think I drank last night while being in Cancun, Mexico. I don't know. But my fellow Americans, I do believe that we can move forward from Watergate. And I do believe we can move forward and have more forward in our government. Now, what I would like to propose to you tonight is the tax and the my popularity. Now, as you can see, the popularity chart go all the way up. Yup, all the way up, my guy. There is no hint of dissatisfaction within the government. Now, if you look at the taxes, they go up and then they go down and then they go to the left and then they go to the right and they make a nice little butterfly, if you don't mind. Yep. Wait, hold on. So, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed Mr. Gerald R. Dummity Dum Dum, Mr. Fall Down the Stairs, Goddamn Forward. Gosh darn forward. I'm not gonna say. Please forgive me. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a good time, you hippie. And I really hope you enjoyed, basically, the legacy of Ford in a way. Not really, why was he so hated, though? Like, I guess. Let me give you some 10 freaking facts about General Ford before we go. Number 10. He wasn't actually born Gerald Ford. He was actually born Leslie Lynch King Jr., son of Leslie Lynch King Sr. and Dorothy King. So his name was not Gerald Ford. He was actually a sexy male model at some point in time. He had an odd wedding. After attending Yale and entering into law in Michigan, Ford became interested in politics. He won a seat in the House of Representatives of 1948. A post which he occupied for the next 25 years. That same year, Ford married Elizabeth Betty Bloomer, a former dancer and model. Ford later recalled that he was so busy campaigning that he arrived minutes before the ceremony with mud still on his shoes. The wedding had been delayed just before the 1948 House elections because Ford was concerned conservative voters might take issue with the marrying of an ex-dancer. You know, dancer. She had already been divorced as well, back in those times. Pardoning Nixon earned him a ton of grief, and this is kind of what people really project their hatred of Gerald Ford for. Letting the crook Nixon go, and they'll never catch me now. So when Ford took office in August 1974, just mere months after Richard Nixon fled the country, and by fled the country I mean fled to California. 1 month in what comes after August? September. All right, September. He actually pardoned a full pardon, and reasoning for the prolonged trial and the punishment would actually allow the country to move past the controversy of Watergate. Immediately, his White House press secretary J.F. Trehorst left his job after determining that he could not be in good conscience support Ford's decision to to pardon former President Nixon. He took being a comedic target in big strides, so you gotta give the Chad this. I might be dumb, but I like funny stuff. So despite his background as an athlete, he played football at Michigan. Ford had been, well, the misfortune of many jokes on camera especially. He was occasionally seen as a klutzy president. He once actually tripped down a flight of stairs that was shown in the clip. He was literally on the last step, my guy. But with Mr. Ford, SNL won't be the amazing pop culture icon it has become. Although they talk about WAP and how their pussy is leaking after Donald Trump left office, the impact on Mr. Ford and SNL and Chevy Chase as their iconic legend. Ford, SNL, and Chevy Chase are so intertwined to this day that one might see Mr. Ford in the fact of the SNL skit rather than the actual man himself. People will remember Gerald Ford, Chevy Chase Jr. before Gerald Ford, Leslie Lynch King. So that's one thing. From everything from holding a glass to his ear and thinking that he was in a swimming pool, to everything from putting signs upside down, to having Botox in his arm, to even saying Nebraska, Jerusalem. But he did take it with stride, and some people actually said that he loved SNL and their impersonation of him, though. So that is a good thing. He didn't speak the most good, and he was not the best of the speakers. In addition to Ford's clumsiness, the satirist also dined out and really dished out on his tongue slips, like Yugoslavia and Mr. Entourageation. Entourage, right, I got it. Oh shit, he actually, he had a disease which, he had sickle cell Armenia? Well, sickle cell Armenia. Sickle cell Armenia, bro. Is that a disease? Sickle cell Armenia was a disease which he offered sympathy for. Yes, we at Armenia love the sickle, you know. General Ford is on the right track, you know. He once locked himself out of the White House. What? Yo, wait, hold on. So Ford was a dog lover, right? He adopted a golden retriever and the family named him Liberty. After all, he had taken office, so, you know, patriotic points. You know, calling a breeder in Minneapolis, the White House photographer and friend of Ford's, David Carlin, told the kennel owner he was actually acting on behalf of the middle-aged couple that lived in the White House with a big yard. One night, the trainer was absent and Liberty approached Ford at 3 a.m. to be let out. After doing her business on the south lawn, she and Ford tried to get back inside. What the heck? Why doesn't this door open? Why? Oh, it says push. Alright, I'ma pull. Huh? When no one sent the elevator back down, Ford decided to take the stairs. The door to the second floor swing was only one way. He got out, but he couldn't get back in. Eventually, the Secret Service were alerted to his absence and let him back inside. Hello, Jerry. Jerry. Hello. Alright, we make fun of this guy, but he was a freaking badass Chad. He was actually the target of 2 assassination attempts in the same month. Ooh, a penny. Bang, bang, bang. What was that? What was that? Had it been for 2 different... Had it been up to 2 different women, they were crazy in love. Ford would have lived to the ripe old age of 93 and maybe not even finish his term as president or president thrust upon the people. So on the 5th of September 1975, a disciple of the Charles Manson named Lennox Wiki Fromm. Alright, yeah, now she's a crazy bitch. Pulled out a .45 pistol during Ford's visit to Sacramento, Nebraska. Alright, seriously, this is a serious one. Sacramento, California, in the hopes of winning Manson's approval and even love and his 2-inch penis. She was actually unable to fire the shot because she actually took a dose of heroin. I'm not making this up. She probably did like take a bunch of cocaine before she did this. She didn't even fire the shot because the Secret Service actually apprehended her. Because who carries a live gun in front of the crowd, right? Like walks into the thing, you know, walks into the literal venue with a gun instead of, you know, hiding it under your coat. So thank God she was dumber than Ford to do that. In San Francisco, 17 days later, Ford's life was again threatened by a woman named Sarah Jan Moore, a left-wing activist prone to mood swings. That's what they're saying, but I mean, she loves Ortega with all her heart, man. Moore was able to fire, though the bullet did not really land anywhere near Ford. Both women were charged with attempted murder of the President of the United States and stood trial. Ford was sentenced to life and was released in 2009. Moore was pardoned of the sentence to life, but she got paroled in 2007. Interesting. He considered a co-presidency with Reagan, though. A former president had never really gone on to be and become the running mate of the presidential candidate of 1980. But Ford thought about it in 1980 as Ronald Reagan was actually preparing for the Republican nominee. His team thought the Midwestern Ford would be appealing to voters who felt distracted by Reagan's West Coast presence. Now, my fellow Americans, it has come to my attention that Ford, I could like do it, but it's just so hard to like keep the Reagan essence because it's like a gurgle. So anyway, he did that. Oh, he also played himself in Destiny. Oh man, Dynasty? Like who shot Gerald Dynasty? So it's actually rare for a former president to accept any kind of acting roles, especially on primetime soap operas, and especially, you know, when he was tried to be assassinated twice. It's really a big security risk, especially for ex-presidents. But even when playing themselves, and sometimes they might have to play a caricature of themselves. But Ford was actually willing to buck the trend of 1983 when he appeared on Dynasty, the ABC series about the wealthy Carrington family of Denver, Colorado. Or was it Denver, Texas? I don't know. The series was shooting a scene in the real charity ball in Denver of 1983, when producers spotted Ford and his wife in actual real time, and Betty among those in attendance. They pitched him a scene in which he would briefly greet actors John Forstey and Linda Evans. After being promised Betty they would be on camera, as well as Ford gained $330. Ford agreed. So that was kind of funny. And there you have it, the amazing history of General, the Mr. Clumsy, accidental, crazy off the wall, almost got assassinated twice president. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I hope it was nice for you. So I'll see you next time. And wait, so who is General Ford's vice president? Hold on. Nelson Rockefeller. Alright, that was nice. Yeah, he was the vice president of General Ford. So interesting, the vice president has a vice. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna just end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know about being too fast, but I'm just gonna try and experiment a bit more. Hopefully it wasn't a bit too rushed, but I do believe sometimes it could be a bit rushed. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. This has been another exciting episode of Is This My Water Bottle? Or Is This the